Wait! Pray for his career chat. Are we done? Are we?
We need to delete it.
Maz, can we delete all VODs? And then as soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too? Can we delete everything? You done for, bro? Y'all are not done? Now you wanna Epstein? Wait!
Tonight, the entire country is reeling from one of the most shocking twists in recent history. What began as a tragic murder investigation has now exploded into a political firestorm. David, the man who for months managed to stay hidden from the public eye, has finally been arrested by the FBI. Cameras caught the stunning moment as he was escorted in handcuffs from a black federal vehicle, his head down, refusing to meet the gaze of dozens of reporters shouting questions. Microphones were pushed toward his face. Flashes from cameras lit up the street. But David stayed silent, his lips pressed tight, ignoring the chaos around him. For many, this was the moment justice had finally arrived. But what happened? His arrest turned this case from a private tragedy into a full-scale national scandal. Leaked documents have revealed horrifying new details about Celeste's death. According to an autopsy report, Celeste was pregnant at the time she was killed. This revelation alone sent shockwaves across the country. But then came more. Secret tapes where David's voice can allegedly be heard threatening Celeste. And finally, her personal diary, her own words, written just days before her murder. "If the truth comes out, David will destroy me," she wrote in shaky handwriting. These words, broadcast across every major news channel, struck millions of viewers like a thunderbolt. But the real earthquake came when reporters uncovered David's family ties. He isn't just an ordinary suspect. He's the nephew of Senator Raymond Collins, one of the most powerful and controversial politicians in Washington. Collins has long been accused of corruption, bribery, and even rumored mafia connections. Now headlines are asking, did a senator cover up his own niece's murder? Social media erupted overnight. Hashtags like #JusticeForCeleste and #PoliticalMafia began trending worldwide. Protesters filled city streets, not only demanding justice for Celeste, but calling for the collapse of what they see as a corrupt political empire. Celeste's grieving mother appeared before cameras, clutching a framed photo of her daughter. Her voice broke as she spoke. "This isn't just my daughter's death. This is the murder of truth, the murder of innocence, the murder of justice." Her words went viral, shared millions of times across the internet. The question now tearing at the nation is just about David or Celeste. It's bigger than one family's tragedy. Americans are asking, did a powerful senator build his career on the blood of his own family? And if so, how deep does this conspiracy go? The day David was arrested will go down as one of the most unforgettable moments in modern American history. Outside the federal courthouse, hundreds gathered. Some carried candles. Others held up posters of Celeste's smiling face. The air was heavy, part anger, part grief, part anticipation. Police vans rolled in slowly, lights flashing but sirens off. Then David appeared, handcuffed, head bowed, escorted by FBI agents who pushed through the crowd. People screamed his name. Some shouted in rage. Others sobbed openly. Protesters chanted Celeste's name to remind the world who the real victim was. This wasn't just another high-profile arrest. This was the breaking point after weeks of whispers, leaks, and suspicions. The FBI had finally stepped in after growing evidence of cover-ups, secret payments, and corrupt local police behavior. Social media flooded with images and videos of the arrest within minutes. Finally, one viral post read, "Justice is here. No more hiding. David, the truth is out." But as the public celebrated, the darker details of the case were still emerging. Reporters revealed that the FBI had collected not only physical evidence, but also hours of secret recordings. In one leaked tape, David could allegedly be heard telling Celeste, "If this gets out, you're finished. I'll make sure no one ever knows." These recordings were sent to journalists, who released them to the public. Families across America listened in shock. Classrooms debated the case. International headlines called it America's most disturbing scandal of the decade. Then came Celeste's diary. Her entries, published online, painted a terrifying picture of her final days. I feel trapped. One entry read, "David is not the man I thought I married. I'm scared for my baby. If something happens to me, tell the world the truth." These weren't just diary notes anymore. They became the voice of a silenced victim, a young woman, crying out from beyond the grave. The case transformed from a family tragedy into a political nightmare when David's ties to Senator Collins were revealed. FBI documents suggested the senator have played a role in protecting his nephew from justice. Reporters shouted outside the courthouse, "Senator Collins, did you cover up Celeste's murder?" The senator refused to answer, but his silence only fueled speculation. Protesters outside the courthouse began chanting, "Not just David, arrest them all. No more mafia politics." Inside, the emotional peak of the day came when Celeste's mother stepped forward again, tears streaming down her cheeks. She whispered, "My child was pregnant. She was going to be a mother, but instead, she was silenced because she refused to hide the truth. This isn't just my daughter's murder. This is the murder of justice." Comment sections filled with grief and fury. "We're crying with you, Mama. How could anyone do this?" As if the case weren't explosive enough, a whistleblower came forward claiming that on the night of Celeste's murder, men connected to Senator Collins were seen near the crime scene. Screenshots of alleged cash payments and internal police memos began circulating online. Whether verified or not, the public no longer cared. To them, the picture was clear. This wasn't just a man killing his wife. This was a political network choking the truth. Inside the courtroom, David sat pale and nervous. For years he had hidden behind power, but now the walls were closing in. Prosecutors read aloud the autopsy findings. Celeste was pregnant. The shot was fired at close range. This was intentional. Gasps filled the gallery as reporters scribbled furiously. The first chapter of this story doesn't end with closure. It ends with rage. Rage from a public betrayed. Rage from a family destroyed. Rage from a nation that finally saw behind the curtain of politics and power. Outside the courthouse, one protester summed up what millions were thinking. "We don't just want David punished. We want the entire system exposed. This is bigger than one murder. This is the crime of an empire." By the second day of hearings, the case had grown even darker. The FBI released wiretaps of Senator Collins's aides discussing how the situation with Celeste needed to be handled. That word, handled, sent chills through the courtroom. Reporters gasped. Viewers watching live at home felt their blood run cold. Celeste's diary, now public, revealed not only her fear, but also secrets linking David's family fortune to offshore accounts, organized crime, and backroom political deals. "She told me to stay quiet. They told me it's bigger than me." One entry read, "But how can I stay quiet when my baby's future is at stake? If something happens to me, please know it wasn't an accident." The words cut like knives. Social media erupted again, with hashtags like #SenatorExposed and #SystemOnTrial. Then came the footage no one expected. A leaked surveillance video showed two black SUVs parked near the crime scene the night Celeste was killed. License plates traced the vehicles to a company owned by Senator Collins. Gasps echoed across the courtroom. In a video testimony, a former security officer for the senator confessed, "That night, I was ordered to stand down. We were told the senator's men had everything under control. I didn't know Celeste would die, but I knew something was going to happen." The room fell silent. Even hardened journalists wiped tears from their eyes. Outside, the public's fury boiled over. Protesters carried signs reading, "Blood on his hands," and exposed the mafia in power. Parents held children on their shoulders, shouting Celeste's name like a battle cry. The FBI unveiled financial records connecting David's bank accounts to money transfers directly authorized by Senator Collins's political fund. Millions of dollars moved in and out within days of Celeste's death. And then, a horrifying rumor emerged. A second potential witness, who had agreed to testify, was found dead under mysterious circumstances just 2 days before the hearing. Police called it an overdose. The public called it a cover dash-up. With every new revelation, the story grows darker. Reporters are now asking the questions no one wanted to say out loud. Was Celeste's murder part of a larger pattern of silenced voices? How many others have been buried under this political machine? And is America ready to face the possibility that its leaders are no better than gangsters? On the courthouse steps, chants thunder through the air. Tear the system down. Celeste's blood cries for justice. Protesters vow not to leave until every person involved is held accountable. What started as a murder investigation has turned into something much bigger, a reckoning for an entire political dynasty. The trial hasn't even begun, but the nation is already demanding more than justice. It is demanding the truth. Inside the courtroom, a single piece of evidence stood out above everything else. It was a voice memo, recorded by Celeste herself on the night she died. In a trembling, fearful voice, she said, "If you're hearing this, something's happened to me. David isn't acting alone. They all want me gone. Don't let them bury the truth." Her words echoed through the room like a cold wind. Everyone went silent. Reporters stopped typing. Even the jury sat frozen. Outside, the public reacted with shock. What had started as a straightforward murder case, a husband accused of killing his wife, had now exploded into something far darker. This was no longer about one man or one crime. People were calling it the biggest political scandal of a generation. Celeste's death was no longer just a tragedy. It had become a symbol of something much bigger. A battle between truth and an empire built on lies, blood, and silence. And one terrifying question hung in the air: if they could silence Celeste, who would be next? By the third week of the trial, the courthouse no longer felt like a place of law. It had turned into the center of a growing movement. Barriers around the building couldn't hold back the crowds anymore. Protesters clashed with riot police. Sirens blared in the distance. The name Celeste appeared on posters, walls, and in the chants of thousands of people. Her face became the rallying cry of a nation. Inside the courtroom, the tension was just as fierce. Prosecutors presented the evidence everyone had been waiting for: an email exchange between David and his uncle, Senator Raymond Collins. The subject line was cold and deliberate. The problem, David had written, "She's threatening to go public. If she speaks, everything we've built collapses." The senator's reply was chilling: "Handle it. You know what's at stake." The email landed like a bomb. Jurors stared in disbelief. Reporters rushed from the room to broadcast the story. It was no longer speculation. This was proof. Celeste had not simply been the victim of domestic violence. She had been caught in the crosshairs of a political crime family. David's lawyers scrambled to argue that the emails had been faked, but the FBI had already confirmed their authenticity. Encrypted server records matched the messages exactly. The senator's carefully built image was crumbling. Then came another shocking twist. An anonymous flash drive was delivered to the court. When played on the evidence screens, it revealed hours of secret recordings. In them, aides to the senator discussed bribing police officers to ignore Celeste's 911 calls. One officer's voice cracked with shame as he admitted, "We were told this came from the top." The senator wanted silence. "We didn't have a choice." The public's outrage erupted. Streets turned into battlegrounds. Protesters stormed government buildings, shouting Celeste's name like a war cry. Cars burned outside the courthouse. Police fired tear gas, but the crowds only grew. Social media exploded with live streams of the chaos. People around the world were watching the system unravel in real time. Inside, Celeste's younger brother took the stand. His voice shook, but his words cut through the noise. "My sister begged David to protect her. Instead, he protected his uncle. She begged for her life, and she was handed over to death. If this court lets them walk free, you'll have killed her twice." Jurors wiped tears from their eyes. Even the judge struggled to keep composure. But Senator Collins wasn't ready to surrender. His lawyers accused the FBI of fabricating the entire case as part of a political conspiracy. They claimed Celeste's death was tragic but not planned, that David acted alone, and that the senator was a victim of his power and status. Yet the evidence piled up: offshore bank accounts, whistleblower testimonies, surveillance footage, wiretapped phone calls. Every thread led back to the senator. Then came the final blow. Celeste's phone recovered from the crime scene held one last unplayed voicemail. The courtroom fell silent as it played. Her voice, trembling yet defiant, spoke just hours before her death. "If you're hearing this, you know I refuse to stay silent. David thinks he can scare me, but it's bigger than him. It's his uncle. They want me gone because I know too much. If I don't make it through tonight, tell the world this wasn't an accident. It was murder." Chaos erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Jurors covered their mouths. The judge slammed his gavel, trying to restore order. David broke down in his chair, sobbing for the first time in weeks. The senator, however, sat stone-faced, refusing to react. But outside the courthouse, America had already reached its verdict. Protesters filled the Capitol steps. Hashtags like #CELESTeenSTruth and Number and the Matthias dominated social media. Millions watched live as the U.S. government seemed to crack under the weight of the scandal. Then more shocking news arrived. 2 federal agents connected to the case were found dead in a car crash. Authorities called it an accident. The public called it an assassination. Panic spread. Was the senator's reach still active? Were witnesses being silenced even during the trial? Under enormous pressure, the judge made a historic ruling. David was sentenced to life in prison without parole for Celeste's murder. But the senator's case was delayed. His legal team used every trick to slow the proceedings, fueling fears that he might escape justice. Outside the courthouse, crowds screamed, "Lock him up. No deals for killers. Celeste's blood will haunt you forever." And then the unthinkable happened. As David's verdict was read, chaos outside boiled over. Barricades fell. Protesters flooded the streets. Riots spread to multiple cities. News anchors called it the night America cracked. Inside the courtroom, Celeste's mother stood tall. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice was strong. "You can cage David. You can delay the senator's fall. But you cannot bury my daughter's truth anymore." Her words spread across the world within hours, replayed millions of times. By the end of that night, America was changed. This was no longer just the trial of David or Senator Collins. It had become the trial of an entire system accused of running on blood, money, secrets, and the silencing of women. Celeste's tragedy had sparked a revolution. Her face appeared on murals. Her diary became a symbol of courage. Her final voicemail became the anthem of a movement demanding justice not just for her, but for every victim buried under political power. And the haunting question that lingered as fires burned in the streets was this: if the most powerful senator in America could silence his own niece, how many other voices had already been buried? The trial had ended, but the war had just begun. David was behind bars, sentenced for Celeste's murder. But does that feel like justice? Because outside those prison walls, the man who pulled the strings, the senator who turned family into pawns and power into poison, was still fighting to protect his throne. Celeste is gone. Her unborn child is gone. But her voice, her final voicemail, echoes louder than every lie. She told the world who was behind her death. And still the system trembles, stalling, hesitating, delaying, while a nation bleeds with rage. Look around. Streets are burning. Mothers are screaming her name. Protesters are being dragged into vans, holding her picture to the sky. This isn't just the end of one woman's life. It's the breaking point of an entire nation. So now, we must ask, how many more Celeste must die before the truth wins? How many more families must bury their daughters while corrupt men hide behind money, power, and politics? If you think this story ends here, you're wrong. This is only the beginning. Justice for Celeste is no longer about one verdict. It's about tearing down the walls of a political mafia disguised as government. And if you stay silent, you become part of the silence that killed her. Share her name, spread her story, shout for the truth, because Celeste's voice may have been silenced in life, but in death it has become a revolution. The question is no longer what happened to Celeste. It's what will we do now? Will we stand with her, or will we let the political mafia win again?